So, Coach, you guys go 2-0 on the weekend for the first time in conference play. What can you guys do with that sort of momentum moving into a big weekend now against Bowling Green and Miami?
I think the important part of that was what it did for us in the standings. I mean, it was good to go 2-0 because we haven't done that. We've been stuck just kind of mired in mediocrity, so to speak, and being 1-1 every weekend. And it was good to go out and get that second one, particularly against a very good Buffalo team. But to go this weekend, to move from, I think we're in 8th to start the weekend, tied for 3rd to leave the weekend, that's an important move. And I think that's the thing we take out of it, is it really helps us in what we're trying to accomplish later. First, to get into the conference tournament, which normally you would think that it would all pretty much be settled for everyone, maybe except for the bottom 2 or 3 teams. But this year, it's still wide open. I mean, we're sitting at 3rd with only 2 weekends left, and we're not guaranteed in yet. I mean, that's how wide open the MAC is this year. So it's just good to get a little movement in an upward direction on there to get in the tournament and then help with seeding later.
Bowling Green and Miami, 2 tough places to play always. What are you guys going to have to do to go in there and walk out with a couple of wins?
Well, the most important thing this year is they're the top 2 teams in conference. Bowling Green right now is number 1, Miami's number 2. 2 very good teams, and they're very similar in some ways as far as they're both fairly low error, particularly Bowling Green. Miami, I would, if you look at the stats, Miami would be a little bit better offensively. Bowling Green would be a little bit better defensively, but they're both good at everything. I mean, that's just the nature of those 2 teams. I'm really impressed with both of them. The more I watch of each of them on video, the more impressed I am. So it's really going to take an incredible effort by our group. We have to play as hard as we did this weekend, but probably a little more efficient offensively with some of the things that we do. And we're going to have to execute our game plan at an incredibly high level. There just can't be plays off. There can't be missed assignments. There can't be, well, we had most of it, but we forgot about this one kid. We have to know exactly what's happening at all times because they're 2 very, very good teams.
What can you guys learn from the loss to Bowling Green earlier in the year and then the win over Miami earlier in the year?
So many things have changed. I think for Bowling Green has similar personnel to what they had then, but they've matured. I believe they have a freshman middle that is currently the best blocker in the conference. She's just exceptional, and of course she has twice as much experience in her collegiate career as last time we played her because she's that young. But I think they're a group they're incredibly low error. I mean, they played, I think this last weekend, they had combined in 2 matches 14 unforced errors combined. And that's an incredible number. And so when you look at that as a coach, you just have to respect what they're doing in taking care of the ball and making their opponent score points. They're a really, really good blocking team. They're leading the conference in blocks, and they're blocking, almost 3 balls per set, which is a great number. Miami, looking at them, they're just incredibly balanced. That's the first word I think about when I see them. You won't see many of their kids on the stat list for our team or for our conference as far as top 10 in kills, top 10 in elite points. They're just incredibly balanced. They run a 6-2, so they have 6 attackers instead of 5, 2 setters that share the load. So for us, I think it's more, all the teams have changed some. Miami only had 1 of their setters last time, so they were definitely down, missing a big piece of their offense. We, of course, are a very different team with personnel now, so it's maybe hard to take a lot from what happened back then, but I just know from what we've seen on video recently, they're 2 very, very good teams.
You guys are statistically one of the best teams in the country in aces. What do you attribute that to? Why is this team so good from the serving line?
Lizzie helps a lot. That's probably a good place to start that answer, but it's something that we just believe is very important, and we believe if we're focused on that part of it, and we really do a good job back there, and we find that fine line. You want to be aggressive but not reckless, and that's hard to do sometimes as a server when you're stepping back there and you want to go for aces, but you have to understand situations. Maybe in football you would say down and distance, but for us it's more rotations and knowing what rotation are they on the other side. Is this a really strong rotation? If so, maybe we're going to go for it a little more, because if we don't, they're just going to score easily anyway. Whereas if it's a little more consistent rotation on the other side, maybe we'd rather have one of our more consistent servers or that server choose to dial it back a couple of miles an hour to get that ball in. But I think it's just a mental approach. It's something we train all the time. It's not, there's no like magic or secret or anything to it other than we just spend a great deal of time focusing on it not just the physical side, but the mental side, and putting our kids in pressure situations. We just believe it really helps us on defense, and it makes life so much easier for our blockers if you can limit what's happening on the other side, and the same thing for our back row.
I know there are several different types of serves, available to players to use. How do you determine what is best for one player and what's best for another? I think Lizzie had mentioned that she's kind of tweaked her serve.
Right, she has a very different serve than when she arrived. For us, if you're a jump topspin server, you have to have a certain amount of velocity for it to be really effective. I think that's true. You take a baseball, whatever. If you don't have a certain velocity, then you have to do something else. And for us, let's say, for example, when Jamie's serving, she's well above that threshold on speed. And so she can remain a jump topspin server, and of course has had great success in line to be the career aces leader here at Ohio. But some kids, if they come in with a jump topspin serve and it doesn't meet a certain threshold, then we choose to move them towards a float serve. And so Lizzie came with a jump topspin serve, and we did it the first day. We're like, all right, we're going to need a year in the weight room before we can probably do that and really be effective at this level. And so she'd done a little bit of a float serve before, maybe not a lot, and we worked on it for 20 minutes, and I told her literally that day, 20 minutes into jump float, I said, Lizzie, you'll never ever serve a jump topspin again, because I just couldn't believe how good it was. I mean, most kids, when you make that change, it's a little iffy, but you figure, okay, down the road it's going to be pretty good. Hers was an above average jump float serve her first day doing it. I mean, it was just like, wow, this kid's going to be great. And of course, a year later, a year more experience, stronger, playing a little bit higher. I think last year she had 3 aces and 14 errors, I think, as a freshman. And she's sitting at north of 50, I think, right now for this year. So it's pretty exciting to watch what she's done. We have a number of players, sort of slightly different balls. What we don't have right now is a jump topspin. With Jamie out, we'll have that, of course, when she comes back. But I do like having the variety of serves coming from different locations, different style of serves, because it makes it a little more difficult to pass than seeing the exact same ball over and over from the same location.
Could you give us your analysis of Lizzie's evolution as a player since last year? I mean, she dealt with injury last year, didn't play probably as much as she would have wanted. Now she's your primary threat offensively.
It's interesting. I was just kind of having this conversation earlier today with Lizzie. She came in, she had an academic meeting with me, but then after her weekly academic meeting, we had, she just wanted to watch some video, and so we did that, and we got done. I was asking her, just like, how does it feel to go from what was last year, and Mal and Jamie are outsides, and then this year you start the year as our O2, and then we have a bunch of injuries, and you become primary point scorer for our team, and that's pretty big evolution for a kid who didn't play much as a freshman to now do that as a sophomore. And I'm just really impressed with how she's grown and how she's handled that role. The other things that she's done, and maybe they're not as noticeable, but her serve receive has gained just tremendously since last year. I mean, she's improved so much. Not everybody knows like a point scoring as far as passing and all that, but she was a 2.4 passer last year. She's a 2.7 passer this year in 1 year. That's a radical change in 1 year. And so we're excited about where that's going. She's defending pretty well in the back row, working on blocking. That's made a big stride since last year. And so we're just happy with where she's going. And we probably didn't expect to see as big of a jump this year because we didn't think we would need to see as big of a jump based on what we started the year. But, I mean, she had a couple or 3 weeks of, I think, being overwhelmed when all the changes happen, and now you're the 0-1 and you have to carry the load. It was very taxing. I think it has helped her now with the lineup that we have, having Carly back in there in serve receive and having someone who has played that position a long time, just to be able to communicate with each other. We're in system a little more now, and there are a number of things that are helping her, but you got to give her credit. She's done a great deal herself.
Coach, as you guys get into the final couple weeks of the regular season, can you just talk about the leadership ability of Katie and Jamie being sidelined and still being able to lead this team through what's the home stretch of the season?
It's been very interesting this year for the leadership side of things. You don't really think about going into a year and having both your captains needing to lead from the sideline. You're of course hoping they're out there on the court, but I've been impressed by that in their own way. They're very, very different. I mean, Jamie's probably going to be more getting a huddle during a timeout and let's go and say a few words that need to be said, whereas Katie maybe is going to be a little more behind the scenes. She's going to be a cheering person and an encourager and really kind of take care of people off the court. But it's been, I don't know how to describe it. It's really unusual and really interesting this year. And I was even asking Lizzie about that because she's our on-court captain now. And it's gotten easier as we've gone throughout the season, but it's kind of in leadership by committee in some ways, that we still have our captains because they're not only not in matches, but sometimes they're not in practice, they're doing rehab or something like that. And so other people have to learn to step up. So it's been, I'm going to say a sociology experiment, but it's been very, very different. I've never had a year like this where you have to lead in different ways as players, you have to lead in different ways as coaches, and I think everyone is just finding their way. And so I would say Jamie and Katie, they certainly didn't envision this year going like this, but they have found ways to contribute, found ways to help, and still our team is moving forward, and they're a part of that.
So, and then can you talk about Allie a little bit, just a senior, and how much she means to the program just as her career starts to wind down?
I think Allie, just experience and wisdom as a player. I think she sees the game in a certain way, particularly as a blocker, that's impressive. We were watching a video this morning of our team. We used to do on Monday, and then we're talking about some things that we need to improve. An area that we need to improve is blocking. And after we talked through some things as coaches and watched some things on video, I just stopped. All right, what are you guys seeing? What are you guys seeing as players? Back row, what are you seeing in the person in front of you? If you're off to the side, what are you seeing in the people out on the court? And Allie had several really, really good things that she mentioned during there. And I texted her later. It's just like, it was really good. I mean, it's the stuff that she had to offer. It's when you have that kind of experience, particularly when you're looking at, there are people out there, they're blocking, that have been playing college volleyball for 9 weeks of their life. And she's in her 5th year. And there's just a very different understanding of the game. And so it's important that she keeps offering those things, because she's definitely someone that people can learn from with regards to how to block and how to see what's going on the other side.
And then with you guys beating Miami earlier in the season, although they were projected to finish first in the MAC, and then you have to go there to kind of start to close out the regular season, does that amplify what already is just a great rivalry in general? It's
harder on the road. I mean, I think we all know that, and that's, Buffalo, we lost at their place, we won here. It's Miami, it's not like we won here in flying colors. I think it was 15-13 in the 5th maybe, and so it was by a slimmest of margins then, and now we're going to their place, and now they're running a 6-2. I mean, they're a much better team, and if we go in there and win, it will be an absolutely great win for us. I mean, they're well coached, again, very, very balanced, a number of experienced players. This weekend, it's not very often in a conference you get a chance to go play number 1 and number 2 on back-to-back nights. And that's what we have to look at this week. This is a huge opportunity, huge opportunity. If we can go and have success this weekend, the belief that our team can have deservedly in themselves moving towards postseason and really feeling like you have a good chance to win the conference tournament. So I think everyone right now is saying, yeah, we have a chance to win. But at some point, some teams really believe they can win and some teams don't. And a lot of that comes down to how much success you've had in the regular season. You can hope and you can dream and all that, or you can believe that you can win. And if we go out and find success this weekend, then our belief should go up. Our team should really go into postseason feeling a high level of confidence that we can be successful at the tournament.
Going back, looking at film from Saturday's game against Buffalo, good win, and there were some things that stuck out, but what did you see in film that you may have not seen during the match that was a deciding factor?
Serving was big. We didn't get quite as many aces against Buffalo as we did against Akron, but we were able to get them out of system quite a bit, and so we were then able to limit the swings in their middles. And if I had to just narrow it down to one thing, it's how well we defended their middles as the match went on. In the first set, Megan Wernette was unbelievable. She had 8 kills on 9 attempts, hitting almost 900. And we're like, this is crazy. And that kid's always good against us. She's been like an Ohio killer her whole career. But 8 kills on 9 attempts, that's unbelievable for just one set. But the rest of the way, I think she had 4 kills and 3 errors. And so she hit maybe 111 the rest of the way. Cassie Shadow, who came in leading the conference at hitting percentage, had 1 kill, 4 errors on 9 attempts, so hit negative. And that's something that's not just our defenders, that's our servers that begins that. So those are 2 good players, and they're going to continue to have success. Both Cassie and Megan are just outstanding players. But I think on that night, we were able to affect them enough that allowed us to find success.
A lot of your players after Saturday's match were talking about how big the week of practice was because it was Miami and Bowling Green. What needs to be accomplished this week to set you guys up for success?
Our blocking just has to improve. I mean, it's an area that, I mean, we're last in the conference in blocks right now, and it's something that we're working on, and I think as people are getting more used to their positions, now everyone's been in the same position now for 3 weeks, which maybe doesn't sound like a lot to some teams, but for us it's a record this year, and we're celebrating that. And so with that, we should see more improvements in that area. If we're all still bouncing around, that's one thing. If you're used to moving to your right and blocking, and now you're moving to your left, or vice versa, that's what Carly and Steph were going through, for example. But for the most part, people are now in their natural movement positions as blockers, and so we should see some gains. We're spending quite a bit of time on that side of the game. And then after that, it just comes down to situational things as we prepare for each team. There are certain things we feel like we need to do against each team that we'll be working on throughout this week. And of course, we'll take a little pause in the action tomorrow to enjoy some Halloween festivities as we always do.